Hi boys and girls, this is Miss Martin, and this is a lesson on how you can evaluate the credibility of online sources. Okay? The internet, as I'm sure you all know, is just an amazing resource of knowledge. It has information on history and culture and art, science, sports, your favorite movie stars, actors, singers, news, just anything that you could think of is always just a simple click away. But did you know that it's super easy for anyone to create content and put it on the internet? And I'm not joking. Anyone can post information, true or false information, wherever they are and whenever they want. And that's a big problem for both students and grown-ups. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Obviously, that's not a creature that needs saving. Oh, this is a website about how you can learn how to live hundreds of years in the future. Not a possibility, ladies and gents. And finally, this is just a posting of something very fake. A shark swimming on a road or a highway in Texas. Can't happen. So each time you use the internet, it's important to evaluate sources for their credibility so that you won't be misled by false information. So what does it mean for a source to be credible? Well, here's the definition. Being credible means that you are able to be believed or you are trustworthy. You might find something on a website that is not credible, even though it pretends to be, such as this little classic. It's important to think about the credibility of a source before you use it or share it with someone else, so you don't use or spread false or misleading information. Can you imagine if you help a friend with a research project for school and then you send them a link to an untrustworthy article or video or website? The credibility of their project is at risk. Can you imagine how you or your friend would feel if hours were spent researching and writing about the Pacific Northwest tree octopus, and then your teacher handed back a paper with a big old zero on it because the information isn't even real? Believe me, this happens in real life by people of all ages. So always remember to pause before you use or share information with others. Always double check the credibility of your sources. Did you know that in every type of content that you see and read online, there are clues about its credibility? How does a person check their facts and their sources like a pro? Well, there are 5 key W questions that you can ask yourself when investigating any new topic or evaluating the credibility of an article. Let's review them. You should always ask and answer the following 5 W questions when you are thinking of using an article or website that you have found online. Number 1, who wrote the article? Number 2, what is the author's point of view? Number 3, when was the article written? Number 4, where does the author get their information? And finally, number 5, why did the author write this? In this lesson, you will learn how to use the 5 W's to evaluate the credibility of 2 online articles. Sometimes it's obvious that a website is trying to get you to do something, like click on a link, or buy a product, or share your personal information. But most of the time, it's not so easy to figure out if a source is credible or not. Sometimes online content can seem credible, like this website. It can have an impressive layout or look professional, but it may have been written by someone who doesn't know much about the topic or even have a topic that really exists. Or the author could be biased. What does biased mean? Well, here's the definition. Bias is showing a strong opinion or preference for or against something or someone. The information in the article or website will be in favor of one position over the other. Both sides of an issue will not be represented equally, and that is not good for you. Remember to ask yourself the 5 W questions because they'll help you set aside the untrustworthy resources and only use those that are credible. 2 other keywords that I would like to share with you before we move on to examining 2 different articles are corroboration and evaluate. Let's take a second to review what they mean and why they're so important. Corroboration is an additional source or sources that confirms or supports a news article, a website, or some other piece of information that you find online. And if it's corroborated or talked about someplace else, that puts that resource in pretty good standing if other websites are also discussing it. And then finally, to evaluate. Evaluate is to carefully examine something to figure out its value. And that is exactly the task that you are about to be given. You are going to compare the following two online resources. This is one. It's called The Case for Allowing 16-Year-Olds to Vote. You're going to review this resource, and then you're going to comment on it, implementing those 5 W's. And then you're going to go ahead and read this article, The Voting Age Lowered to 12 in a Handful of States. You're going to use this worksheet to enter in your review comments and your thoughts on those 5 W's. To begin, ask who wrote the article and if the author is a trustworthy source of information. To do this, I suggest performing an internet search on the author themselves. Try to find out more about who they are, other articles they have written, or where they work. If the author does not show up in an internet search, it could be a warning sign that the author is made up and not credible. If the author's personal or professional history indicates some type of bias, it might affect the credibility of the article. If you can't find the author of your article, look at the website that it appears on. Usually they're typically at the bottom of the website. But if you can't find them, the author's name, evaluate the organization that the article or website has been published by. Next, think about what the author's attitude is toward their subject. What is their point of view? Does the author present accurate facts in an unbiased way? Or does the author seem to be taking sides on the topic? If the author is strongly for or against an issue, their bias could affect the credibility of the article. Next, move on to the site's currency. Currency means how new is the information in that article. To begin, find out when your article was written. The publication date may be included in the article itself or the website itself, or it may appear somewhere else. I always recommend you kind of scroll down to the bottom. Typically that's where that information is listed. So is the article relevant or recent? I'm sorry, not relevant. Is it recent? If not, is its content still relevant or is it outdated? Information changes all the time, so even an article that is a few years old may contain information that is now inaccurate or ideas that are no longer relevant, so keep that in mind. Next, when you're reviewing those sites, try to discover where the article's information comes from. Does the article include citations, such as footnotes at the bottom, that mention the sources of information that the author used? Does it have links to its sources or to data that was collected about the topic? Can you find similar claims to other sources? Search the internet to verify the claims made in the article. If other credible resources make similar claims, or if you can find data that supports your article, it may be trustworthy. If you cannot verify the information in the article on other websites or in other sources, the article may not be credible. And finally, try to determine why the author wrote the article. Is the author writing to inform you about an important issue? Or is the article for entertainment and not intended to educate you or have truthful information? A tabloid article about a celebrity, for example, might share rumors rather than actual facts. And boy, oh boy, does that happen all the time. And also consider, is the author trying to persuade you or to perform a specific action? For example, an article might try to get you to click on a link, submit your personal information, or make a purchase. Those are all clues whether or not that article or resource or website may or may not be credible. After you have reviewed the 2 sites and asked the 5 W's, make a copy of the worksheet that your teachers are going to share with you, and you can type in your answers. This is just one of the 2 pages. It's a 2-page worksheet that you're going to have. Think about the most and least trustworthy parts of your article. Then, given all of your observations, do you think the article is actually credible? Type your answers into the table in the 3 columns called Read Closely, Analyze the Source, and Look for Corroboration. So you're just going to type in your thoughts after you've used the 5 W's and reviewed your 2 articles. Put your thoughts down in that table. Then I'd like you to write a sentence or 2 about how you came to your decision at the bottom. Finally, decide if your article is credible. Instead of circling one of the choices that are listed here, it says circle 1, fake news with a thumb down, questionable with a sideways, or credible with a thumbs up. Obviously, you're not going to be able to circle that digitally. So instead, just write fake news at the end of your sentence, or questionable at the end of your sentence, or credible news at the end of your sentence. And then we'll see what you believe by simply reading it rather than circling. So, good luck with your observations and reviews of these 2 web pages. I am interested in seeing your answers when you provide them back to your teacher. I hope you find this lesson to be valuable. I know that it definitely is valuable because you can't trust everything you find online. And now you will be equipped with a couple of skills to help you weed out the junk from the good quality, credible information. Good luck, and I'll see your responses soon. Take care. Miss Martin signing out.